Hey everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey, everybody.
How's
Can
it
you believe
going?
it's Monday? Uh, it's going well. Going well.
Good.
I'm having
I
fun.
I can't believe it's Monday. I can't believe it's November. I can't believe
I
tomorrow is
know. I'm
election
still
day.
not even caught up to all that. So agreed.
Me too. Me too. Well, how was your weekend?
My weekend was really good. We had a really quiet weekend. We stayed home. We didn't really do much, which was kind of great.
Mm-hmm.
I needed it.
Mm-hmm. Us too. Well, Saturday we took down Halloween,
Oh, did you? Oh my goodness, that's a job.
which is a big job, but it just looked like it's getting colder and colder, and I'm like, we're gonna end up doing this in the snow if we don't get it done.
Hmm.
And ain't nobody wants to do that, you know?
Mm-mm.
So we decided to just get it over with. So we did. Well, we took down everything except for our Big Skelly and the Big Skelly dog
Oh, hmm.
because they are going to be turned into the Grinch and Max.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I
which
like
is
that.
yeah, we found a Grinch costume that's for the 12-inch or the 12-foot Skellies, and we're printing an antler for the middle of the dog's head, like from the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, and a new tag for him. He has a tag now that says Scully, but we're going to print him a new tag that says Max, and then put a scarf around his neck.
That's cute.
And then I think because the Skelly's hands kind of, are up, I'm going to like put lights in his hands and kind of wrap around him like he's all wrapped up in some Christmas lights. So yeah,
That's
but
cool. I like it.
I had promised a look at my yard. As you guys know, we go all out for Halloween, so I didn't
Hmm.
do a video until Halloween because we weren't really fully set up until Halloween. Well, we kind of were, but anyway, so I do have a little video of my yard, but it's a little bit slow to upload. So before that, I'm going to show you a little peek at Miss Fiona. I showed you a video of her last week and how pretty her hair is getting, but she was trying to climb up on Scott's lap last night and gave us a real good look at that pretty mohawk. Look at
She
that.
sure did. Look at that. That's awesome.
You can tell it's getting cold. She's getting super affectionate. She wants to be cuddled. She wants to be, all up in our business all the time.
Hmm.
Not so much Zig. He's likes to do his own thing. He's not as, social as he is. But look at that hair. She's so funny. Yeah.
Oh, Sandwillow says we have two lives scheduled for the same time. We do? Shit.
What?
Well, we're on this one.
If anyone goes in the other one, tell everyone to come over here. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. I guess I'll figure it out. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. That video's taking a minute to come up, but I know you have some show and tell. So do you want to share yours and
I
then I'll bring mine
do.
up?
So I've shown you a few things. I've been printing some bigger things for the holidays, and just because I want to have some bigger fun things. And I got my gift guide up on my website, Fidget Whimsy, and there's still more things to go in there. But I want to show you some of the things I have there now. This is my little Highland cow. Isn't she cute? She even
Cute.
has an udder. But you can see her
Aw.
eyes just a little through her bangs, and then she's got these horns. I thought she was so cute.
Oh.
And then here's my big unicorn.
Oh, cute.
Isn't
Love.
she pretty?
Yes, she's
Yeah.
adorable.
So I've got her. And then and I know some people want Mudang. I don't have the right kind of hippo for Mudang. I, however, have the cutest fucking hippo you've ever seen. And
Okay.
that is this little gal right here. Look at that
Oh
face.
my god.
Isn't she so cute?
She's darling.
I love her so much.
She looks more like the dancing pink hippos, I think from Fantasia.
Kind of, yeah. But I just thought this face and this color. Oh my gosh. So
Yes,
funny.
adorable.
So then, okay, I have wanted a Luna moth real bad. I've tried a
Mm-hmm.
couple. Finally found the one. Check this gal out.
Oh,
And if you look at it, I'll
yes.
show you from behind.
Look at the
Check
wings. Oh my
the wings.
God.
Check the wings.
Okay,
And that
she is
face,
precious. Yes.
right? And you're going to freak out when you see this one. Because this is one of Katie's favorite things. Check out my peacock.
Oh, she's so cute.
Well,
Oh my God. Well, okay,
this
yes.
is Percy, the peacock.
Oh, he
Because
is
it's the
handsome as
boys that
hell.
look like this. Isn't he
I
handsome? And
love
look,
him.
all of his feathers are movable,
Yeah.
and his wings and his head spins all the way around.
Oh, good Lord.
Uh,
He is
so
so
anyway,
cute.
so many fun things. So I'll post a link in the chat, but of course, always, if you go to truecrimesquad.com, Fidget Whimsy is on our list on that website, and these guys are all available now and more. Because I'm just making some fun things for, like, you know, you have a friend who loves peacocks or whatever.
Yeah.
These make great gifts. They're great for on your desk at work, or just to have and play with because they're fun. Because everybody can have toys.
Love them.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
I
Everyone
that's a
should
lot of
have toys.
this is a lot of what I've been doing is getting this kind of stuff ready. But yeah,
Love her.
this Luna moth, look at that face.
Yeah.
See, these are her antenna,
Mm-hmm.
and then her big
Oh,
wings.
she is
She's
everything. That
just
is a great
gorgeous,
design. Wow.
isn't it? I know.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is super good, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Super
Super
good.
good, super smart. So check all this stuff out at fidgetwhimsy.com. It's all available now if you're starting your shopping, or if you just, love one of these guys. I don't know.
Need cool things.
Love this
Yes.
freaking hippo. So funny.
Yes. I'm
Yes,
in
so
love.
detailed. I purchased these patterns. I am not a designer yet. I want to be, and
You gonna be.
I'm kind of starting with playing around with designing and learning designing.
Yeah, you're
But
gonna
in the
get there.
meantime, yeah, I support designers that then I have the permission to sell their things
Mm-hmm.
commercially, and I like their logos are on my website and stuff, so that you can see what designers I use and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so detailed, so talented. Whoever did
Mm-hmm.
this,
Oh yeah.
this designer
Brilliant.
is smart as hell.
Mm-hmm.
So
Brilliant.
anyway,
So good.
that's some of my fun stuff I have right now.
Well, fun. Love it. My video of Halloween just came up, so I'm going to share with you
Okay,
guys.
Linda, I do have a pig coming.
Perfect.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. These are some giant skellies in my
Ooh, yeah.
yard. That one's actually in the flower bed.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
A couple of piles of skulls that Scott made. Basset Hound making a cameo in the window. I don't know if you caught that.
She's always in that window.
Oh, right. Lots of my little step skellies. And another stack of skulls, because, why not, I guess. That's the Skelly Dragon. That's got stuffed a Skelly Duck in his mouth. Rude. Love ducks. Rude. Scott,
Very
rude.
rude.
Skelly Dinosaur. Then, of course, the big Skelly Dog. The Skelly Dog is 6 feet tall at his shoulder, so he, in this, next to that giant 12-foot Skelly, he doesn't look as big as he really is.
But they're taller than us. The dog is taller than Katie and I.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And then babies in cages. I know. They're zombie babies, though, so don't worry. They're zombie babies.
Somehow
This
that
is one
makes
of
it
our
better. I don't know.
another of our new additions this year. His name is Deadwood,
Cool.
and that's a little skeleton puppet. The Deadwood was supposed to hold, but it pulled his arm down too much, so we had to put him
Oh.
next to him. Now, this horrific thing is Scott's newest addition this year. So the skeleton is sitting in a chair holding a handle of a rotisserie,
Hmm.
and he built this fire pit thing that lights up and has like glowy lights in it. And you can't really tell. The skeleton on the spit is it's another skeleton that's all done
It's
up.
awesome. It's all
It's
black.
cool.
Like
It's
it's
really
been
hard to
charred in the
show it in
fire.
picture. Yeah. Yeah. Some of our headstones. Just some little skelly
Oh, flamingos.
flamingos. Another creepy baby in a cage. Yeah. Bad news. He went to Spirit Halloween, bought two more zombie babies on clearance
Oh, he did?
for next year.
Yikes.
Yeah. And this is his skelly mermaid that he has a system that he uses that makes them look like they're like rotting flesh. They're really actually gross as hell, but yes,
Yeah.
that's the skelly mermaid. And my little skelly donkey and cow that are my absolute favorite. There's a
They are
ghost
very
in that
cute.
corner. It's hard to tell because she's made out of chicken wire, but she's in the light. You just think you can see the figure of a human.
Hmm.
It's very creepy in real life, but I found that really hard to capture on camera. But anyway, that's how my yard did this year. But it is all taken down and put away now, except for Deadwood, who is coming down this week, and then the big skelly that's going to stay up. So, yep,
Very cool. We had a lot of
yeah,
fun on Halloween.
we did. We did Halloween at my house, and we had
These guys want to know if you got
lots of
some trick or
fun.
treaters.
Yes. I put on my page and in a community page a plea to please come trick or treat at our house. And we had, what would you say, maybe six, maybe seven groups
Groups? Yeah.
at least? Yeah. I mean, we went through a whole thing of candy, mostly because I was like, please take a lot. We don't get many trick or treaters. Take more. This one little girl, I was like, you guys can take more. We don't get very many trick or treaters. Take plenty. And she's like, but how many is that? And I'm like, however many you want. She'd taken like three. I mean, I just had like fun size candy bars, you know. She took like
Uh-huh.
three and then she looked at me and I said, you can take more if you want more. And she just was so bothered that I didn't tell her how many. She's like, okay. So she took a few more. I'm like, I felt like just emptying the whole damn thing in her bag.
Take it all.
I told you to take more candy. It was cute. Yes, we had great trick or treaters. I had also said if you're young adults and you're out trick or treating and in costume and you want to come trick or treat me, please do. And I did have a couple of couples of young
Hmm.
adults that were just not even with kids, just out having fun. Good. Halloween's for everybody. Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we did. Well,
Now it's the holidays already.
yes, now it's the holidays. Um, some of you have been asking what's going on in with the case I discussed about 10 days ago that I had just learned that one of my old daycare kids was murdered uh, in Washington, in Spokane.
Hmm.
And I have been in contact with her mom and her sister. And essentially, the police are insisting on waiting for the results of the autopsy before they make an arrest. And they're saying that that could be up to 6 weeks. I'm really nervous about it because the potential perp would be her husband, and he's on probation and he's not being held. And it worries me because why is he not being? He's also being, his probation is for a violent crime. He bit someone's eyebrow off in a fight.
What?
They could hold
Holy
him right now.
shit.
I have no doubt they could violate him and hold him. He is apparently
Uh,
currently in rehab. And maybe that's why they're not holding him. But I am very worried. And you guys, with the Oakley Carlson case, you know, Washington doesn't always handle these things well.
right.
And the children were taken into CPS custody. And now CPS is, as soon as he gets out of rehab, they're starting reunification. And so obviously,
Oh God.
her mother is worried sick and very upset about all of this, but very upset about the kids going back to his care. But as we know, Washington's laws are for parents, they're not for kids. Their CPS laws are terrible. So that's what I know so far. I'm being careful not to name names because no one's been arrested yet, and frankly, I don't need to get sued. But I am really tracking it. I'm talking to people. We are on top of it, but there's not a lot I can share with you until an arrest is made. But by God, an arrest better be made. If not, I'm going to be coming over here with a petition and asking you guys all to help me sign it. So that could happen too. But
Yeah. No kidding.
in the meantime, there
Terrifying.
is a service plan for her in Boise at the end of the month. I don't think I'm going to make it, but they're doing a silent auction because you can imagine what the bills are looking like. And
Ugh.
I am going to donate some glass pieces to the auction. I think that's the best I can do right
Yeah.
now. But I have promised Mom and her sister that we will put this mofro on blast as soon as we can
Hmm.
and not let this go away. So
Most definitely.
that's what we know so far. Three of her
Yikes.
kids are with her first husband. Two of them are his, and one of them, CPS was letting them keep the brand new baby for now. So I don't know if that's going to change, but there is a brand new baby in this.
Ugh.
So, gosh, I'm really, really
Awful.
hoping that they get to keep that one. But it's very scary to think that any of the kids are going back to this dude at all.
Right?
Like, Washington, what the hell?
Yeah.
So that's what I know. So I know a lot of you guys have been wondering because I dropped that bomb about 10 days ago and haven't said anything else because I just haven't been able to. But
Yeah.
we're on it. Well,
Absolutely.
shall we? We have a lot.
Well, yes, we need one conversation though, because Wu Tang, I'm
Oh,
having the same thought. Wu Tang says, I've heard of shaving eyebrows, not biting them off. I feel so horrible for the family that has to go through this.
yeah.
How in the Christ do you bite somebody's eyebrow off? Holy hell.
Right.
I've been thinking about like what that would take.
Right.
God, that's horrible.
And who are you that you can do something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, they've sent me pictures of her. And oh my
Oh
God.
God,
You haven't
it's
even seen
ugly.
them all yet. But yes, they are
Oof.
unbelievable
The ones I've seen, I was like, holy shit,
that
this
one
is
human can do something like that to another. It's just, I can't even fathom it.
no, me neither.
No. Well, also totally unfathomable is the Delphi case. And
As usual.
so we decided to just make this whole episode Delphi because we are 4 days behind now. We didn't cover it on Thursday because when we have our 3 o'clock shows, court is just wrapping up there. And so
Yeah,
we're waiting for the pool reporters to get together with their notes and to get things published so that we have something to say.
yeah.
So then, of course, they had court Friday, they had court Saturday, they had court today. So Kristi and I are going to cover all 4 days. We're going to just jump back and forth here and share it all. So that's going to take a little time to get through all of it, but I think this is all very worthwhile stuff. So I am starting with Friday.
Okay. Jessica, the chat is most active on YouTube.
Oh, yes, definitely
Jessica's
YouTube.
asking which app is the chat most active in. It's definitely YouTube. The majority of people that are chatting are on YouTube.
Hmm. Yeah. I always notice like we get a fair amount of listeners on X and there's just no conversation for the chatters on X, which I feel bad about. So if you're on X or Facebook and you want to get more in on the chat, you definitely want to come over to YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I am starting with day 12, which was Thursday. So starting with Thursday, this is the day that the prosecution is preparing to rest. So we're
Yeah.
starting with the prosecution still front and center. So initially, when court starts at 9, uh, when at 8:58, it's reported that Richard Allen was standing in the courtroom, appeared to be praying as court was set to begin. Judge Gold enters the courtroom. The state moves to admit an exhibit that the defense objects to, saying they've never seen it before, and Gold does not admit that exhibit. I will say that as this case has worn on, she has become a little more friendly to the defense. A little.
She has. It's
Let's not get
weird.
crazy, but a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. The state moves to admit photos of Rick Allen from his phone. arguing that they would like the jury to be able to see what he looked like before his arrest. The defense wants the photos removed. Judge Gold says the defense can review the matter and it will be revisited after lunch. So Nick McClellan, the prosecutor, says they're going to admit 7 Departments of Corrections phone calls to Alan's wife and mother. The defense says they object. They say the prosecution is not offering one of the phone calls when Alan said he's innocent. So they're just cherry picking, and they're only going to give you the phone calls where he gives a supposed confession.
Mm-hmm.
Rosie says that they're not offering the one phone call where Alan says he's innocent and describes being mentally tortured and killed at the Westfield Correctional Unit.
Wow.
Rosie says what the state is admitting is an attempt to represent facts to the jury outside of context. This, they fight back and forth on it. The state says that the calls are complete on their own. The defense says that they're violating Alan's rights. Rosie gives Judge Gold a transcript of the admitted call, references certain times in the transcript where Alan mentions that the conditions at Westville are what they're like and that he's innocent. He says the calls are one continuous communication. He gives Gold 2 more transcripts and says, you play them all or you play none. Gold admits the calls over the defense's objection and tells the defense that they can play the omitted call if they so choose to. So they will. Rosie says the case law does not agree with what Gold is saying. Yeah. Then Baldwin speaks up. The other defense attorney says that the calls the state want to present, that they want to admit, are referenced, and that would be confusing to the jury. So basically they fight it out for about 30 minutes about these. Which is also another exhibit that they want to put in is Alan's Google search history. And again, Gold says we'll handle that one after lunch. So she kind of just keeps kicking the football down the road and saying, oh, we'll take care of that later. We'll take care of that later. So when the jury comes in, Gold says they have had supervised contact with their phones the night before. So they finally call in State Police Master Trooper Brian Harshman. He's been with the ISP for 30 years. He became involved with the Delphi investigation in 2020, so 3 years after the murders. He became the phone guy, meaning he monitored Alan's communication from inside custody to the outside world. He says he monitored calls, video chats, and texts. He has listened to and re-listened to 700 hours of Alan's calls. He tells the jury that, he tells the jury he either calls his wife or mother. He says, yes, he makes incriminating statements. They reference a call on November 11th, 2022 that he made to his wife, where he tells her that he would call the detectives and tell them whatever they want to hear if things become too much for her. If you notice throughout this entire thing, he is very, very concerned for his wife and her well-being throughout all of this when he's sane. But that started when they first, brought him in for questioning, and he wanted her to lawyer up so that she could leave versus him lawyering up. And there have been multiple instances where he's done things or said things that he's trying to protect his wife. So on that, then they play a call from November 14th where he says to his wife, I don't want to upset you anymore. Tell the investigators to come get me. I will tell them whatever they want me to. Kathy says in the call, I wish I could just hug you. The reporters in the room say that during these calls, Alan has his head down and Kathy is crying while the calls are played. In one call, Alan is crying loudly and says, I'm sorry. I know you told me. I believe you. You take care of yourself, okay? And Kathy says, you get the help you need. And he responds, I'm sorry, baby. I wish I could just see you. You don't know what I would give to see you one last time. I'll see you in the next life. You take care of the family for me. It's already going so badly. Then on April 2nd, 2023, from Alan to his mother. His mom says it's good to hear from you. He says he's been trying to get a hold of Kathy. Janice tells him they've had some bad storms and tornadoes and she may not have cell service. He asks her to tell Kathy that he's okay, says he'll try to get through later. Then his mom tells Rick that she started going to church after a car accident. He tells her that's good, that he didn't know she was going. She says, he's been sparing my life all of these years. And Rick asks, did Kathy tell you I told her the other day I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior? Very typical prison stuff. His mom says that's so wonderful. He tells her he'll try to get a hold of Kathy and that he will try to sleep because he hasn't slept. He tells his mom, I've got a family that will always love me. He won't let this last forever. We're going to be back all together someday. It may be when we're all in heaven. He's going to work a miracle out of all of it. He already has. Kathy sent me a Bible. He says he wants Kathy to thank one of their doctors for saving his life because he suggested that Kathy give him a Bible. He tells his mom he loves her. Then he plays another call from April 3rd that he makes to his wife. He says, I did it. I killed Abby and Libby. Kathy says, no, you didn't. No, you didn't, dear. Don't say that. You weren't feeling well. They messed up your meds. And then she says, why would you say that? And he says, maybe I did. She says, they're messing with your mind. Something is not right. They are screwing with you in there. Don't ever say that you did it. I know you didn't. He says, I think maybe I did. She says, they're fooling with you, trying to get you to say things. He asks Kathy to apologize to the families, and Kathy says, just don't talk anymore. Then the prosecution plays another call from May 10th. Alan calls Kathy at 5:03 a.m. Kathy says, are you there? He says, I am. She says, hi, honey, it's good to hear your voice. Are they going to move you? He says, I don't know. I think maybe I am losing my mind. Then he asks Kathy if she's okay. She says, we've all lost our minds at this point. He asks Kathy if he can trust Brad and Andy, his attorneys. She said, yes, they are our lawyers. He said, I think I need to tell you something. I need to tell you that I did this. Kathy says, dear, there is no way you did this. I love you, honey, but no, you have not done anything. You are just not well. He tells her he thinks he's losing his mind and says it feels like it's taking forever. I'm just trying to be at peace with everything, Kathy says. Alan says he has a dream that he needed to let Kathy go. Kathy says, you're dreaming things again. And Rick says, I have to let you know I did it. Then the prosecution plays a call on May 10th, 2023 at 11:13 a.m. This is again from Alan to Kathy. He says, I need to know if you still love me. Kathy says, I do. And everyone else will as well. Rick says, I may have to spend the rest of my life in here. I don't understand. Kathy says, you're not well. He says, I'm well. Yes, I am, honey. If I get the electric chair. And she says, that's not going to happen. This isn't right. They've messed you up so bad. He says, I did it. I've got someone listening to me right now. She says, no, you didn't. We're going to be back together. He tells her, I've been trying to let you go. And she says, I will stay with you. Please stop talking. Then they play a call from June 5th. Kathy says, get your coffee or snacks, whatever you need. He says he hates using that money when I don't even know where it came from. Like commissary money, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. She says, it doesn't matter. It's in there. Everyone is thinking of you. He tells her, I think I've lost my mind, like I'm in hell. She tells him, well, you're kind of living in hell right now. He says, she knows I've done it, right? And Kathy says, I don't want to think about that. He says, I'm just in a really frustrating spot right now. Nobody will talk to me. Don't feel like anybody's willing to be honest with me right now. She tells him she's trying to get someone in there to pray with him. Then they play a call from June 11th, 2023. Rick says, I did it. Kathy, I did it. Do you still love me? She says, yes, dear, but you didn't do it. Why do you say that? Why do you say it? He says, I don't want to upset you. She tells him she's already upset. He tells her he feels like he's lost his mind. She says, "You can't call me and talk like this, okay?" He says, "I'm sorry, baby." Kathy tells him she cannot talk to him right now. He says, "I didn't want to do this, honey. I'm so sorry. You aren't going to do anything to yourself, okay? Probably going to have to kill myself now." She says, "Stop. You can't call me and talk like this." He says, "Why are you so mad at me?" She responds, "I'm not mad. I'm upset." He says, "Can't tell you what it's been like going through my mind. I feel like I'm already in hell. I don't understand what's going on." And Kathy says, "Neither do I." He says, "I guess I'm going to have to stop calling. I'm sorry." Kathy says, "You just can't call and talk like this." At this point, Harshman describes Alan's demeanor as subdued and believed he was not under stress. Not under stress.
Sure, he sounds great.
He'd been under 24-hour bright lights in his cell now for about 9 months. He had
In
not seen
solitary.
darkness in 9 months in solitary.
Yeah.
He's not under any stress at all, Harshman. I'm sure that's right.
Why would he be allowed to make that assessment?
Right.
That's so stupid. That
Mm-hmm.
is nothing but his opinion. That comes out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He should not be allowed to make assessments like that. That's not right.
No. Then the prosecution moves ahead to August of 2024. He shows the jury a report from Dr. Monica Walla, the psychologist that worked with Alan. In the report, he describes what he did on the day of the murders. In the report, Alan told her he went to his parents' home, didn't go to lunch with them, bought a 6-pack of beer, drank 3 of them, and went to the trails. He said he saw the girls, did something to his gun, and a bullet fell out. He told them down the hill. He said in the report that he thought the girls were older and intended to rape them. He said he then saw a van and killed them instead. Then he covered their bodies with sticks and left.
So who's
Harshman's,
feeding him information?
well, some of it's just coming from the discovery that he had, and the rest of it I think is coming from Walla. But maybe it's coming from the
That
guards too.
stupid psychologist. Oh my God.
The psychologist was so inappropriate that I think, how do we know what she told him?
Right?
I mean, she literally lost her job because of how inappropriate she was with Richard
Right.
Allen.
And yet they still used her on the stand.
And we're still allowed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Harshman says this is the first report he'd seen with details from Allen on the crime. He says the detail that stuck out was about the van. Prior to that, he'd not heard about a van, which is wild because there'd been stuff about a van floating around on Facebook or on Twitter since 2017.
Right.
So I call bullshit on that. Of course, he didn't even join this case till 2020. But it, as we know, lots of things have been omitted. So many interviews lost and misplaced. Right. He said the only person that would have seen a van there would have been Abby, Libby, and the person that killed them. He tells the jury he looked up to see who lived at that residence and found who owned it. He ran a DMV check on Brad Weber, the man who owns the property, and that Weber owns a 2000 Ford Econoline van. So he enters a picture of the van as an exhibit. He says he got reports from Weber early on in the investigation. He says he interviewed Weber again in August of 2024. He said none of the reports from the day of the murders reported that Weber drove a van. He said he didn't think those reports were public. He tells the jury he filed a report on his interview with Weber.
Why isn't Weber a suspect?
Apparently he
There
was.
are a lot of reasons that he should be a suspect.
Yeah. So the prosecution plays the Down the Hill video for Harshman. He's viewing the stabilized version, which we also know is the AI altered version, which is timestamped February 13th, 2017. He says he received Libby's health app data from ISP Sergeant Cecil, who was the police's phone expert. Harshman tells the jury that Libby's phone stopped moving at 2:32 p.m. that day. He asks how that information aligns with what he got from Weber. He says the van was on the road between 2:27 and 2:30. He tells the jury he recognizes the voice from Alan's jail phone calls and that the voice is the same as Bridge Guy, which again, that has been AI altered.
Right.
Uh,
Shouldn't
to
even be allowed as evidence.
no,
They have no way to prove that they've preserved the integrity of that original video.
no. At 11:10, defense attorney Brad Rossi begins his cross-examination of Harshman. Harshman says there were 14,000 tips about the crime. Many were identified as being about Bridge Guy's voice. None of them were Bridge Guy's voice aligned with Richard Allen's. I wanted to show you something that I saw on Twitter today that I thought was very interesting. This was put together by a person on Twitter named Steph Orlando. She said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to call anyone out, but if you look at this as proof that this is proof that RA is Bridge Guy, then you're extremely gullible. I took a few minutes to look up a random actor. I picked Ben Affleck, found a random pic on Google of him and put it next to Bridge Guy. Then I looked up his height and weight. He's 6'2", 208 pounds. I could probably find a picture of Ariana Grande and do the same. This is why we need professionals to do this, not us random people that don't specialize in this stuff, which is who they used.
Right.
But that was for side by side.
If you're modifying the images or you're modifying the video, then it's not evidence anymore.
Yeah. Yep. But she was just going to show, like, could you look at either of those and say that that's Rick Allen? And if you did, you think Ben Affleck is Rick Allen. I mean,
right.
But I thought that was a good comparison.
It's a very valid point.
But I also really like this. This was on Reddit. I'm going to read it to you because I can't. I have to blow it up on my own computer. Okay, this was from Concerned in Delphi on Reddit. The state's timeline is nuts and the entire thing is nuts. He randomly decides to go to the trail and he lies in wait for what? A girl? He sees a group of girls, ignores them, then they somehow see him as young and muscular tall guy. Perhaps that's the trick of the light or some midday juvenile delirium. He sees a lady, she sees him, he ignores her too. Thankfully, she is also miraculously affected by midday delirium. Perhaps something was in the air, because she sees him as youthful and beautiful and tall as well. He's had some beer, though, so perhaps this is raw alcoholic charisma and projection, giving the impression that he is nothing like the short, middle-aged, plump man that he actually was. Anyway, he carries on, lying in wait for a victim, I guess. He sees two teenage girls the same height as himself. He follows them some distance behind and then suddenly sprints up silently and calmly to catch up with them. He's very fit and stealthy, despite being overweight with a heart problem, so no panting or loud noise required. He marches them down the hill while cycling a bullet that falls at the bridge and then grows some legs and starts sprinting across the creek. More on that later. He decides to order the girls to strip. They do so, incredibly quickly. Then he decides that he actually would like Abby to wear Libby's clothes because reasons, so she puts those on. Then suddenly, a van! He's interrupted and is now panicking what to do. He marches the girls across the creek and through the water through 3 feet deep creek at lightning speeds, because again, if the prosecution's tale of events matches up, he did all of this in 19 minutes.
Right.
He gets the girls to the trees, tells Abby to lie down, cuts her on the floor next to a tree, but vanishes her blood away. Abby takes a non-inconsequential amount of time to die, but she doesn't move or react at all. Her blood runs up her face a little bit miraculously, but then he cleans her thoroughly in ways not apparent. He takes Libby's phone and hides it under Abby. He kills Libby, then decides, while panicked and hurried, that she needs to be placed next to Abby, so he drags a 200-pound Libby to the spot while leaving no marks. Another miracle. He arranges limbs in a particular manner and then thinks, I should hide This so he gathers some sticks and methodically and precariously takes time to place them over 3% of their body in some interesting shapes. He also does this to a small puddle of blood below their feet because he needs help hiding that as well, I guess. He grabs and struggles with one especially large log to cover Libby's armpit. Of course, this is happening fast. And while that's happening, the bullet that he dropped on the bridge has made legs and has run and buried itself between the girls' bodies in the earth.
Yeah.
Hold on, there's more. I'm just struggling to get to it. He carries on, lying in wait for a victim, I guess. Oh, wait, sorry. Well, let me get there. Oh, of course, this is all happening very fast, and while it is the bullet that grew legs has made its way between the girls' bodies, he walks towards the general direction of the van that scared him and dumps the remaining clothes in the creek. He leaves an absolute zero DNA print at the scene anywhere. He escapes, covered in blood, along with walks along a road visibly populated by people searching for the girls, but nobody but one woman in a car sees him. No one stops him or calls the police. He goes home, disposes of all evidence somehow, but keeps the gun and clothes and a bullet. Some people search until the early hours and don't find the girls' bodies, so they stop and leave the area, and then they don't find them until the following afternoon. A few days later, he decides to call the police and tell them he was on the trail that day to help with their investigation, but he continues to live his life as he did before all of this for 5 years. Nobody suspects him, and nobody even tips in about him. Is that about right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much is. Makes just as much sense as what they're presenting here. It's ridiculous.
Indeed. So back to court. So that was the morning session. Then they take a break. They come back at 11. We still have Harshman on the stand. He confirms he read reports, and we're on cross, so we have Brad Rossi for the defense. Harshman says that he read reports about Brad Weber from February 2017 from 2 different agents. Rossi said that Harshman's theory doesn't take into consideration that Weber could have looked at his phone or gone to the gas station because he believes the van had to be there at 2:20 to 2:30. He asks Harshman if Weber could have been involved in the crime if he's placed there at that time, and Harshman says no. Then he asks if Alan had an injection that would that have affected his voice. The prosecution objects to the question and says it calls for speculation. Harshman responds that he did not have any clue what medication Alan was on while he was listening to his phone calls. He agrees that Alan lost privacy when in custody. Rossi asked if seeing video of Alan's cell would be helpful for context. Harshman says he does not believe so. He says he's never been asked to monitor someone in a pre-trial situation like Alan before. Then he references the May 2023 confession where Alan says he was lying in wait. Rossi points out that the bridge guy video, the man behind the girls was walking. Harshman says he could have very well been lying in wait, and then the girls walked up by and he followed. This is on a bridge.
I don't know how you lie in wait on a bridge. You're not hidden.
So then he says Alan's reference to the van was general, not specific. Is that the only van in Carroll County at the time? Harshman says that was the only van on 625 on that road at the time. He says he's been listening to Alan's phone calls since the trial started and continues to report if needed. Rossi says Alan also proclaims his innocence on some calls, and Harshman says he does note that. Harshman told the jury he's visited Westville 2 or 3 times over the course of the investigation and visited Alan's cell at the Cass County Jail as well. He tells the jury his cell has a table, a small commissary, and a shower. He tells the jury that he has possibly seen video of Alan eating his feces. He says Alan's actions are because he's in constant need of attention. He tells the jury that Alan has said that on phone calls. Yes. People roll around in their beds in their own shit and eat it because they just need constant attention. Sure, Harshman.
No.
Cool.
Psychotic people do that. Mm-hmm. Only psychotic people do that.
Rosie tells Harshman that he should have said something to medical staff if he witnessed that, and he said he would have been out of his lane to do that. He references the November 2022 call where Alan says he's willing to do whatever it took to make sure his wife didn't take the heat. He mentions an April 2022 call where Alan referenced a call he made to his stepdad. Harshman confirms that Alan did make a call earlier that day to his parents' house. He confirms that Alan made a call that day. He called his parents' house at 3:12 a.m. And then he made another call that same day at 8:45 a.m. Prosecution McClellan continually objects, and Rosie keeps asking questions. Goal calls for them to approach the bench. Continuing, Rosie says the bulk of confessions came in April through June. He asks of 2023. He asks Harshman if that was the same time Alan was engaged in bizarre behaviors, and he says yes. He says the specific confession from May 2023 had details only the killer would know, which just isn't true because he had all of the discovery.
And he also had that shitty psychologist who was clearly feeding him information.
Mm-hmm. So then they go to lunch. They come back in the afternoon. We still have Harshman on the stand. Prosecution on redirect. So then they play a call from May 17th, 2023. This is from Alan to his mother. He says, "I'm all right, I guess." She said, "It's good to hear." Alan says, "Did Kathy tell you that I did it?" Janice says, "We're not going to discuss this, okay? We love you. You know that, don't you?" Alan responds, "Regardless." Janice pauses and then says yes. Harshman tells the jury that Alan talks to therapists every day. He says Alan had to be restrained at the Cass County Jail recently. He tells the jury he reviews a video over the lunch break that showed Alan at the Cass County Jail screaming, swearing, saying to a guard he's going to fucking kill him. Defense attorney Brad Rosie objects, saying none of this has been in discovery. They request a sidebar. Yeah, but go ahead and say things that aren't in discovery. Cool.
Great.
Then they take a break. Then they come back, afternoon testimony delayed after the defense objected to the prosecution's plans to play a video. After a 10-minute discussion with attorneys on both sides, Gold said she would watch the video in chambers before deciding if the jury can see it. She comes in, says she's viewed the video later, like about 30 minutes later. Rosie objects again. Gold says she sustains the objection and will not allow the video to be shown to the jury for now. She occasionally throws a little bone. Finally, at 4:55, the prosecution rests. They called 40 witnesses.
And they really think they've proven their case.
Yeah.
Like, what have they proven?
So some of the pool reporters showed some questions the jurors asked of Trooper Harshman. Are people held in county jails or prison before trials? Harshman said mostly county jails. I'm sure the jury's like, why in the world was he in a prison?
Yeah.
They asked, did you listen to suspect Richard Allen's confessions prior to April 3rd? He said yes. And then the prosecution rests at 4:55.
Wow.
So this kills me. At 4:55 p.m., the defense is ready and begins to present its case. So their first witness is Cheyenne Mill. She and her best friend were hiking on February 13th, 2017, the day the girls went missing. She says that she and her friend passed an overweight man on the Monon High Bridge. He didn't greet them. Later on, or a few minutes after 3:49, she and her friend took photos for Snapchat. 2 weeks after walking on the bridge, she talked to the police in the parking lot of Indiana Beach Amusement Park. She had reached out to the police and after she heard the bodies had been found, but didn't talk to them until February 28th. She told the police she never saw or heard anything strange or saw anyone in the woods, but she saw a lady and a man who were frantic and had a moped and were suspicious. She shared her Snapchat photos as well. 6 months later, the FBI contacted her and asked for her mother's phone. She was told that her phone did ping from the bridge. She said that the photos she posted were circulated, noting that she was blasted out by people online. She, she said this case has been blown completely out of proportion online. Eventually, she wrote a letter to the police about everything. The letter was then introduced as evidence, and Mill testified that police showed up at her house after she sent the letter. They asked a question about the friend she'd walked with on the trail. Then the prosecution asked Mill what she told the police on February 28th. She said she told the police she passed a man with what she thought was a camera around his neck. She also clarified details about where she was on the bridge and when. The jury asked, "Did you see or hear any vehicles on the road under the bridge?" She noted that the former railroad bridge goes over water. They said, "Did it take you 6 minutes to walk across?" She said it takes about 10 minutes. The second witness was Teresa Liebert. She lives near Brad Weber. She recalled what she describes as a strange occurrence on the morning before the girls were reported missing. A man standing near the mailboxes at the driveway into the homes of herself and Weber. She also saw a parked car. On cross, she said she'd never seen the man before or since that day. The jury asked, "Could you have seen a high school student near the mailbox?" And she said no, he was definitely not a high school student. Before court ended Thursday, Goal said that she has read a bit of the third-party suspects and hasn't set a timeline of when she'll rule on it yet, because the state is fighting really hard to keep as much evidence of the defense out as they possibly can.
Of course.
Goal did say she's ruled she will allow jurors to hear about Allen's Google searches and denied letting the jury see photos of him before he was arrested. And that is Thursday.
Just talking about this makes me tired, Like, none of this makes any sense at all. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Right, Wu-Tang. They never submitted phone records from Van Guy/Weber, yet it's the core of their case. Right. No phone records. We don't know where he was or what he was doing. And his testimonies, it didn't really come up in this one, but his testimonies vary from what police he talked to and when. His stories aren't always the same.
Right. Okay, well, let's get to Friday, which is day 13 of the trial. So the prosecution had rested the case the night before. Allen's defense had called 2 witnesses before court adjourned for the day. We just heard about that. Then they were working out, moving forward on calling other witnesses, and they were waiting on Gull to rule on a few key motions. Let's see here. So when the court, hang on, let me get to the right place here. It's really confusing because these blogs kind of work backwards, and so okay, so on Friday, the jury comes in at like 9:01, like they start right on time. Gull says that they're going to work on about his motions during the lunch break again. Gull says the jury did have supervised contact with their phones. And then this defense calls Christopher Goody. And the state immediately wants a sidebar. It was a long sidebar, 9 minutes. Goody comes in and says he's a Hammond, Indiana police officer and has background as an EMT. Says his training is in interviewing witnesses and suspects. Defense asks him about the importance of correctly documenting interviews. He says he was with an FBI gang response task force before and that they focused on kidnappings. Goody tells the jury that when he worked with this defense task force, or this gang response task force, he assisted with the Delphi investigation by canvassing neighborhoods and conducting interviews. And he says he worked on the investigation for over a week. He says he spoke to Brad Weber during the investigation. So then the defense attorney wants to know, what did Goody say about where he went after work on February 13th, 2017? Auger asks Goody what an FBI 302 is. Apparently it's a report from an interview. So basically they're just setting up getting this FBI report in.
Right, yeah.
From his interview with Weber. Says that he spoke with him on February 19th of 2017. He says he doesn't know what Weber said, even though he looked at his own report. And that was it. Like, they got nothing out of that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He just basically refused.
Yep.
Is what he did. Because he had his own report right there. He certainly could have said what Weber said, or Weber, or whatever the hell his name is.
Yep.
And just said he doesn't remember.
Yep. He just doesn't know.
That seems legit, right?
That's pretty easy to say, isn't it?
Yeah. Why that was tolerated by a police officer, I don't know. Honestly, that's bullshit. That should not have been tolerated. The judge should have been like, you will answer these questions, but that did not happen. So then the defense calls Dr. Deanna Dwenger. And Dwenger says she oversees the Department of Behavioral Health at the Indiana Department of Corrections. She has been the director of that department since 2021. Dwenger says her main job is to oversee the IDOC's contract with the contractor who actually does the employing for the IDOC's behavioral staff. So basically, the behavioral staff are contracted out. And she just oversees the contract for an agency, probably, who brings people in to treat their people. Which is really fucked up, because that means that those psychologists and stuff that come in there are not actual IDOC employees.
Right.
So there's this whole separation as far as like oversight with them.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation. She tells the jury that she generally knows who Richard Allen is. She confirms that he was transferred out of the Westville Correctional Facility. She says that the solitary units at Westville and Wabash Valley Correctional Facility are similar.
Mm-hmm.
So basically he just went from one thing to another that was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
She says she has not actually personally met him and did not make the decision to move him and does not know who did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Remember, that happened in the dead of night, real quietly.
Yep.
He was just snuck from one jail to another, or one prison to another.
How convenient. The person who most certainly should have known and should have been the person who probably made the decision. Guys, she just doesn't know.
No idea. Lots of things people just don't know in this trial.
Yeah, it's just shocking. People whose fucking job it is to know.
Mm-hmm.
So then the defense asks Dwenger about Walla. And she says that Walla told her after she was assigned to Richard Allen that she had a special interest in Allen's case. Although there's no documentation of that. This is just her word. Mm-hmm. And, once she was told that, she should have pulled her immediately. And she didn't.
Nope.
Didn't. She says that Walla told her about listening to Delphi podcasts and recommended it to her in early 2023. Allen went to Westville at the end of 2022. So obviously we know Walla had already been listening to this stuff while treating him. Mm-hmm. Dwenger also says that she knew that Walla had visited the Monon High Bridge, but says it was before being assigned to Allen. But while she was very interested in this case, before she managed to get herself assigned to Allen. Mm-hmm. Those are just that's my commentary. Yeah. She tells the jury that she thought it was unusual to visit the crime scene of someone you work with. Yes, very. but said that Walla talked to her direct supervisor about the issue more. Right, because Dwenger wasn't really her supervisor.
Right.
They have this nice little pad where they're protected
Mm-hmm.
from really any,
Complete
liability.
bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. The state requests a sidebar because she used the word crime scene. Shouldn't be using that word. She has no way to identify the crime scene. Yeah. Dwenger says she's familiar with Dr. Martin and that he is a psychiatrist and administers medication. He was the guy administering, those Haldol shots
Mm-hmm.
to Richard Allen. And guess what, guys? Dr. Martin doesn't work at IDOC anymore.
Oh,
How
weird.
convenient. Hmm.
One other note about Haldol: should never be given to somebody with a heart condition.
Right. Haldol requires some heart testing prior to going on it because it
Yeah.
can kill you if you have a heart condition. Guess who does? Richard Allen.
Yeah.
So, um, she tells the jury that Allen was assessed in Indianapolis and was assigned a D code in mental health. She explains that a D code means a person would benefit from a specific and personal therapy treatment plan. Yes, and if you look it up, you find also that a D code person is recommended to be kept in general population,
Mm-hmm.
not in solitary confinement.
But we also know that it was
She
the
didn't mention that part, though.
prosecutor who asked for him to be in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
The prosecutor
And
was calling the shots.
and why does the prosecutor have the power to make that decision? Well, they sure as hell shouldn't.
Yeah.
Prosecutors shouldn't have anything to do with the housing or decisions made of a prisoner at all. That should be done by the Department of Corrections. And in this situation, it should have been done by the damn jail.
Mm-hmm.
She says she doesn't know if there's ever been safekeepers in either Westville or Wabash Valley. She says she doesn't know why he was assigned there. She says she knew there was video in his cell and that worried her. She said she recommended the video be removed, but it didn't happen. It worried her.
Oh.
Not that she saw it as a total violation of Richard Allen's human rights, but it worried her, which tells me worried as in we're going to get in trouble for doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
She tells the jury that yes, solitary confinement can impact mental health and that it is not unreasonable to think being in solitary would have a negative impact over time. No one's ever supposed to be in solitary for 13 goddamn months, ever.
No. No.
She said 30 or more days of solitary happens only if the inmate is severely mentally ill. Oh, wait. I thought he was sane as a judge and what's the word trying to say? Confessing to all these crimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she tells the jury the 30-day rule exists to keep people from being in there too long. 30 days times 13 is what they did to him.
Yeah.
She tells the jury that Allen was gravely disabled. What gravely disabled means is that a person is unable to keep themselves safe when they are gravely disabled. And a person who is gravely disabled should be in a psychiatric hospital, not a prison cell.
Yep.
She explains the difference between mental health monitoring and mental health treatment. She says treatment is more focused on actual therapeutics. She says the therapeutic setting at Westville was not ideal. As in, it did not exist. There was no therapeutic setting at Westville.
No
To
shit,
even
lady.
imply
Wow.
that there was one that wasn't ideal is utter bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Dwenger
All while
confirms.
torturing Richard Allen in 24 hours a day of light.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Dwenger confirms she was on a team that discussed Allen's care, though was not directly treating him. She described herself as a sounding board for those who were.
Well, sound better.
Yeah. Well, you did a shit job of that. The state requests another sidebar, and then Rosie asks Dwenger about solitary confinement for mentally ill patients. Let's see. And then, which by the way, solitary confinement is not recommended for mentally ill patients. It's really not recommended for anyone.
Yeah.
Uh, so at 9:56, Rozzy ends his questioning. And so prosecutor Stacy Diener begins her examination of Dwenger. Dwenger confirms Alan was not severely mentally ill. Was not. And
Oh,
yet,
and
earlier
yet he
said he
was.
was, and began to decompensate until he was and didn't, I think what they're trying to say is didn't begin to decompensate until he was in the Westville Correctional Unit. She says he was first she was first contacted about Alan in April of 2023, and says that's when his core team was formed. Core team of torturers? Yes.
This is after he's already been in jail for 5 months and has
Yeah.
been completely removed from the psych medications he was on for anxiety and depression.
Just ripped off from them, because that's always a good idea. First, she was talking about Dr. Walla asking if Alan could have a meeting with his wife. Dwenger tells the jury at that point Walla told her that Alan was faking it. Yeah, people that eat their own shit, yeah, they're malingerers. No, they're fucking not, you guys. This idea that he was malingering while living naked in his cell, muttering insanities, and eating his own shit is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Dwenger tells the jury the team was called an MDT, a multidisciplinary team. That is a very common term used in all kinds of mental health services. She explains that gravely ill means you aren't able to take care of yourself. No, gravely disabled means you aren't able to take care of yourself. She says it got to the point where it didn't matter if he was faking it. They needed to intervene. Well, he wasn't fucking faking it. God. Dwenger explains Haldol shots to the jury. She says it helps with psychosis symptoms and being gravely ill. Again, it's gravely disabled is a symptom of psychosis. Yes, not gravely ill. I don't know why they're using that term. It's gravely disabled. Haldol is a very old and not super helpful antipsychotic. It really is, more than anything, just heavily sedates people. Diener ends her cross-examination at 10:04. She didn't talk to her for very long, like 8 minutes. And then Rossi on redirect.
Really quick, Wu-Tang makes a really good point, and this is something I've been thinking about too. If he was faking, why did they give him Haldol shots? If he was
Right.
faking, why did they treat him for psychosis?
Because they knew he had psychosis, and they're all full of shit saying that he didn't.
Trying to cover their own asses.
They're just trying
Yep.
to cover their own asses. They knew. They would not have medicated him if they thought he was faking. And faking does not last for 13 months.
No.
People can't malinger consistently under that kind of supervision, constant 24-hour supervision, for that kind of time. It is not possible. Plus, they don't do the kinds of things he was doing. He was psychotic. So there's a sidebar. Rozzie's trying to ask some questions on redirect, and they keep objecting. So they just
Yeah, this
wrap
state is
it up.
rigorously objecting to the defense.
Yes.
Rigorously.
Yeah, because of course, why would we want Richard Allen to be able to have his own defense, right? I mean, I think that the best trials I have seen that were put on the best by the prosecution are the ones who aren't afraid
Of the defense.
the defense's case.
Yep.
Put on all the shit you want to. We proved the crime. We proved our beyond a reasonable doubt. These guys know they haven't.
Yeah.
So after that, the jurors ask some questions. One, does the Department of Corrections ever place safekeepers in general population? I'm not sure what safekeepers are. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Is that when you have to have somebody? Yes, I do. Sorry. That is when someone is watching you to make sure that you are not going to kill yourself.
Okay.
Do they ever put them in general population? Dwanger says, yes, there are suicidal people in general population. Could it be possible Alan was faking so he would not be moved to general population? Dwanger says it was possible, but don't know for Alan.
No,
Why would he?
Sorry.
Oh,
Safekeepers are a person who's transferred from a county jail to a state prison without being convicted of a crime.
oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood that.
So Richard Allen is the safekeeper.
The safekeeper. Do they ever put them in general population? Yes. Could it be possible Alan was faking so he would not be moved to general population? Dwanger says it was possible, but don't know for Alan. Why would he? What would be the reason?
Right.
Did you hear threats to Alan from other inmates yourself? Dwanger says no, but hey, by the way, Dwanger's an administrator. Dwanger's not doing shit with inmates.
Right.
Question 4. Could a person slip in truth of a confession even when faking it? Dwanger is not an expert to be answering that question at all. They should not have allowed her to answer it. She says it is hard to tell, but yes, she says you can tell if people are faking it based on the organization of thoughts. If the conversation is goal-oriented and chronological, she says Alan was not having delirium. First of all, she was not his therapist, nor does she have any right to be asking that question. The judge should not have allowed that. Secondly, you can tell if people are faking based on the organization of thoughts. Okay, let's think about what Alan was doing and how disorganized his thoughts were.
Right.
He was not. What she means is if you're faking it, you can still ask and answer questions that make sense. Do you think Alan was, you heard what he was saying to his wife and his mother on the phone.
Right.
Do you think that was making sense?
No, and also in nearly every one of those calls, or maybe everyone, he said things like, I think I'm losing my mind.
Yes.
I think I've gone crazy. I don't know what's happening to me.
Yeah. What is the typical process for safekeepers with severe mental illness? Dwanger says the same as general. Now let's point out here that she said that he did not come in with a severe mental illness. And yet they put him in that unit for severe mental illness, in which they caused him to have a severe mental illness.
Yeah.
None of it makes sense, but she shouldn't be allowed to answer some of those questions. That's ridiculous.
No, and this whole line of conversation makes me nervous that, and it's a point they need to continue to draw out, that he did not enter the jail severely mentally ill. The man had some depression, and which is very typical of heart patients, and he had some anxiety. He also had a loving, stable marriage, had a good relationship with his daughter and his parents, and had a very stable job.
Right.
That was a thinker's job. You know, he worked in a pharmacy. We aren't talking about somebody who went into this crime or into jail severely mentally ill. He was not.
No. They caused the severe mental illness by putting him in that situation. But yeah, she contradicts herself, saying that he wasn't severely mentally ill and yet that's where they were placing him, in their prison. It's insane. So then they come back from break. There's a sidebar, of course. So then we have intern Max Baker on the stand. He's the defense's intern. And he says he has reviewed most of Alan's phone calls and videos from Westville, and he was asked to compile video of Alan at Westville and put it on a flash drive. The prosecution is objecting to this the whole time. They do not want this evidence shown. But the judge is not going for that. So Baker says the video was given to the prosecution as part of discovery. He says there are two main video formats. Camcorder video. Think about that. Someone is holding a camcorder on him. And security camera video. The camcorder video is outside of Alan's cell, and the security video is inside Alan's cell. The camcorder video has sound, the security video does not. Now, I believe that when Walla was on the stand, she indicated that she was the one filming him with the camcorder when she
Hmm.
was meeting with him. Um,
At least part of the time.
yeah,
There's
at
more
least part of the
camcorder
time.
video than just
Right,
her, but yes.
right. But some of this was his therapist
Hmm.
filming him, supposed therapist
Hmm.
filming him during their sessions, which
Hmm.
also, what?
Right? Is that common practice in prison? I don't know.
People still have rights to privacy, even in
Yeah.
prison. And this guy was an unconvicted prisoner. Now we
Right.
know, safekeeper.
Hmm.
So he tells the jury the camcorder video did not have a time stamp. So they're taking video of him. We don't know when this video was filmed, which also not cool. Um, So it was put in folders with general timeline information. He says he tried to piece it together as best as possible. So it's in folders that give timeline information, but again, we don't actually even know that those timelines are true.
Right. And this was just what was provided to the defense from the prosecution. This is
Yeah, so
discovery.
he's putting this all together. He says that the incel video on the flash drive is from the 15th of every month from November 22nd to December 23rd, except for aside from April to July of 2023, where there is more video than just on the 15th. Why that date? I don't know exactly. So the defense asks to admit the video. They show a spreadsheet that explains the videos by date and time, that, the timeline that they have.
Hmm.
So the prosecution objects to this. There's another big sidebar because they do not want this video in.
Hmm.
Uh, they come back from that sidebar. Max Baker's back on the stand. Defense requests a sidebar again. Jesus. Baker tells the jury there's an issue with the security and camcorder video of Allen because the prosecution provided them to the defense without the needed timestamps. Ooh, shocker.
Hmm.
And Rozzy says, we're just dealing with what we've been given by the state.
Right.
So the judge sends them to lunch because they're trying to, figure out what the hell they're going to do here. Let's see. During the lunch break, the defense had filed a motion requesting an FBI special agent be allowed to testify remotely. They want Adam Pohl, who is currently working in San Antonio, Texas, to testify. They say he is a necessary witness for the defense and that his testimony will only take 30 minutes. Pohl is currently the election crime coordinator for the FBI San Antonio, Texas division. So busy dude right now.
Hmm.
The defense said it's very difficult for him to appear in person because of his current job, and that he was previously assigned to Indiana.
Hmm.
So that they're trying to get that. And then we come back from lunch, and the defense calls Brad Heath. Heath tells the jury that he lived just outside of Delphi. He's 70 years old, and he worked for Reliable Exterminators and retired 5 years ago. Heath says he managed company business for the Delphi area around and surrounding spots. He describes doing a job at a company called Anderson's. And the scans of the building he did on February 13th, 2017. His last scan was at 2:06 p.m. Brad Rozzy hands him a report he requested that shows what Heath did on that day at that stop. The report refers to Heath seeing a vehicle at 8:45 a.m. the morning of the murders. He noticed it was in the same location that afternoon. He says the car was halfway down the road near the CPS building and parked about 2 feet off the road. He said it was an older car and looked out of place. He said he went to law enforcement a week after the crimes to tell them about the car and that he had talked to law enforcement about it a few times over the years at his own prompting. He felt that this meant something.
Hmm.
He recently had spoken to law enforcement about having seen a car that looked like it was in a movie. He says the car was a four-door that looked like it was from the 80s or 90s. He said he was 150 to 250 yards away when he saw it. The defense shows a photo of the car. He said he has no recollection of cars being in the CPS lot or not, but he saw different angles of the same car at different points throughout the day. The prosecution has no questions for him. So I think this is, they're trying to bring it in like, hey, what about this car?
Right.
Who was driving that car? Why was that sitting there? That,
Mm-hmm.
reasonable doubt.
Creating doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the defense calls David McCain. David lives outside of Delphi. He's lived there for 20 years. He's 79. Said he's a longtime volunteer and a project manager for the Monon High Bridge Trail.
Mm-hmm.
He says he went to the bridge many times as a child and started planning to develop the trail in 2013. He says he's walked the bridge many times and was just out there a month ago. He said he was on the trail on February 13th, 2017. He said he got to the trails around 2 or 3 p.m. and parked at the Mears entrance. He said he saw no other cars there and walked to the Monon High Bridge. He said he took photos and walked just to the beginning of the bridge. He said the bridge is 65 feet above the water and you can see it clearly below. Tells the jury he used a camera, not a phone. Remember, somebody saw somebody with a camera around their neck. He had a camera. He said he was there for less than half an hour. He said he saw a couple while he was there. He said it could have been before he went to the bridge. He said there may have been people off in the distance that he saw, but only past the couple. He left before 4 p.m. Said he was surprised at the number of people at the Mears entrance when he returned to his car. He tells the jury he did not see pedestrians on 300 North when he left. He said, someone shouted to me, have you seen the girls? When he was leaving the entrance. So this is when people were starting to look for the girls.
Mm-hmm.
He said that evening is a community meeting and some emergency people said they were investigating missing kids. McCain said he became concerned about the girls and called the sheriff's office to say he was there that day. So he's self-reported that, hey, by the way, I was there. He said 2 FBI agents and an ISP came to his house and interviewed him. He said he gave them the photos from his camera and SIM card. Like, here's everything I know and what my phone knows. He said 2 or 3 years later, he was called and asked if he had seen a certain car in the distance of his photos. He said he never got his SIM card back. That kind of sucks. So something about a car in the distance in one of his photos. Prosecution cross-examines, shows McCain a document of an FBI interview. Defense says that's improper. Judge Gull lets McCain look at the document. Basically, they're trying to help him remind himself of what he said.
Right.
McCain says the man shouting at him that day was a pretty large man in a bright orange jacket. He said something like, have you seen the girls, in a concerned way.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get the Delphi fire chief, Daryl Sterrett, on the stand. This is now the 8th witness for the defense. Sterrett says he grew up in Delphi, graduated in 85. He was a firefighter for 36 years. He was the fire chief on February 13th, 2017. He said it was at the station house around 6 that night because there was a training. He said that word came in that 2 girls were missing. He said he went to the Carroll County Sheriff's Office where Joint Command had been set up. Sterrett said they tried to figure out where they were and sent people out to search for them. So he was helping, organize the search. He tells the jury that they were directing the search through dispatch and that Mullen and Lazenby were in charge of the search. He's shown a document that kept track of where firefighters, cadets, and officers were that day. He said they are an entirely volunteer department, that everyone was at the station that day because of the training event. He also tells the jury they were notified about the girls at 7:01 p.m. He left to go to the Unified Command at 7:10. He says about 6 of the volunteer firefighters were at the bridge that night around 9:30 p.m. He took his own vehicle, and the volunteer firefighters took 2 fire trucks. He said he entered the trails off 625 West and drove to the end of it and parked. He He said there were houses on the left. He said he parked in someone's yard. He said one vehicle drove up to the bridge, but the others walked. Tells the jury that they needed to search, that they needed the search to be boots on the ground. He said that they thought the girls were scared and cold. It was not an organized grid type search. So they were all just sending people out everywhere looking, but they weren't doing it in an organized fashion.
Yeah.
He says the searchers were separated by varying amounts of distance. He said they stayed more southwest of the bridge, only on the east side a bit. Starrett said he left the scene at about 1:30 a.m. on February 14th. Oh, now he says, he corrects himself that it was 2:30 a.m. He said he ordered a search north, south, east, and west of the bridge. In a deposition, he said that there may have been higher intensity lights from vehicles that he saw, but he's not sure. He says the night was very dark and that the firefighters were using department-issued flashlights, which have spot and floodlights. He said someone shined a light on Deer Creek to check for the girls. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Where they apparently were not. He told the jury that nobody from his team saw anything floating in the creek and did not hear anyone shout out saying they saw anything. He said he could hear people during the search. Prosecution doesn't have any questions. The jury has 2 questions. How long ago did you give your deposition? And did you get a copy at that time? He says it was 3 weeks ago and it was mailed to him. They asked, did you search the area southeast of the cemetery? He replied, I did not personally. So interesting, because the jury seems to understand the lay of the land fairly well.
They do, yeah.
Which I think is very cool. They're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so then they take a break. At 5:48 p.m., the judge rules again that the jury will hear no testimony about Odinism during the trial. The defense has, brought this up several times based on evidence that has been presented by the prosecution.
Yeah.
The judge will not allow testimony about potential other suspects either. They can't even give alternative theories of the crime, you guys. They had a bunch of argument in court late Friday afternoon about all of that. The defense had asked for a ruling on their motion, which had been made days earlier before they proceeded with additional witnesses for the jury. And that was it for Friday.
And then jumping into a very hard day on Saturday.
Oh my God.
So on Saturday, oh my goodness, sorry. All right. So they start with repositioning the courtroom so that no one in the gallery can see the courtroom TV. So they're going to play some videos of Richard Allen while he's at Westville. And Nick McClelland objects, of course. But Brad Rossi says they want to request that the video only be shown to the jury for the dignity of multiple people involved, particularly the dignity of their client. Because in a lot of this, he is naked and, acting insane. This caused a firestorm on Twitter of people being really upset that the naked bodies of the victims were shown to the entire courtroom. But to protect Richard Allen's dignity, the videos of him in states like that are not being shown. The thing you have to understand about that is 100% on the prosecutor. The prosecutor did not choose to protect those photos from the public in the courtroom.
Right.
He did not choose to not show naked pictures of children to everyone in the courtroom. That was his choice.
Right.
The defense said, we don't think it's appropriate for everybody to see these videos of Richard Allen. We think only the jury should see them, and the judge agreed. So if you're upset about that, or you see other people being upset about that and thinking that Richard Allen's rights are more protected than the victims, that was on the prosecution to do.
Right.
But he doesn't care. He does not care.
No. I mean, as in trials that we have followed recently, like think Daybell,
Mm-hmm.
they did not show the autopsy photos to the public and to the live streams and the media.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a decision that was made by the prosecutor.
Yeah.
And sometimes the judge, if there's a fight about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's just not the same thing, unfortunately.
Right. So, heavy objections on the videos, but Gold does admit them. So basically, the prosecution, the defense, the jury, and the judge are all kind of, huddled up to see these videos. So there's 10 videos. They start in April of 2023. Video 7 was nearly 30 minutes long, but they sped it up a little bit so that it was a little easier to get through. Because the press couldn't really see the video, some of them could see a little bit of the videos just kind of out of the corner and did have a few things to say, but for the most part, they couldn't. While watching the videos, there was a point where, according to pool reporters, that one of the jurors raised their eyebrows and looked at Allen. Jurors were taking notes. The juror with a background as a psychologist, because there's an actual psychologist on the jury, appeared extremely interested. Allen could not see the videos. They're saying that Libby's family seemed exasperated while the videos played, and McClellan seemed exhausted. Defeated. I think defeated. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Several jurors frowned during video number 7. One juror took notes, wrote something on his notepad, and showed it to the juror next to him. During video 9, multiple jurors looked at Allen. The last video was 52 minutes long. Rozzi told the jury he would advance through certain parts. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger appeared deeply concerned watching video 10. At one point, Auger held her head in her hand and covered her mouth during another. Eventually, she looked away. One of the jurors, Russell, said the alternative jurors wore a sour look, Russell being the courtroom reporter, while the school counselor appeared to be shocked. So, some things that the glimpses that some of the reporters in the room said were videos of Richard Allen laying in his bed, eating his own feces. Videos of Richard Allen being drug around wearing a black hood. Videos of guards literally dragging him. Videos of him being strapped into a wheelchair wearing a black hood. Videos of guards in a shower scrubbing him down forcefully, washing his body. And other abuses. But basically, one of the reporters that saw a little of it said that it looked like he was being treated like a prisoner of war.
Well, remember, they've admitted he was gravely disabled. He was unable to keep himself safe. Yeah. He can't take care of himself, his own basic needs. He can't protect himself in any given situation. And he is in an incredibly dangerous environment for someone like that.
Yep. So it was, it appeared to be a very shocking, stunning morning. The jurors it was a deeply upsetting morning from people in the courtroom. Then they take a break. They come back at 11. They pause watching the videos and they call Doug Carter. He's the state police superintendent. He's been the superintendent for 12 years. He said his role in the girls' murders was a support role. He explained that dozens of agencies were involved, including multiple nearby agencies, ATF, FBI, and Homeland. See, in the beginning, they had a huge amount of support The FBI stopped their involvement in August of 2021. The reason why is because Carter decided that they didn't need the FBI's help anymore and released them from the investigation and asked them to return any evidence they had.
Do you think the FBI thought Alan did this?
No.
I do not think they do.
After he was released, they went back to the videos. Videos 11 through 15 were taken May 13th and June 20th. During video 13, Baldwin turned away, shaking his head. 3 jurors looked very uncomfortable during video 14. Jennifer Auger was also seen looking away. Video 15 was 34 minutes long. Multiple jurors took notes. An alternate juror appeared very surprised and wide-eyed. Baldwin was seen speaking to Richard Allen softly with his arm around him. Allen was shaking his head while also taking notes. The videos end about noon. Russell said of the videos viewed, 4 contained nudity, while others showed Allen being transported to receive medical care. So again, McClellan keeps putting off cross until all the videos are watched. So that was the day on Saturday. That's when court ended.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to today. Today, pretty interesting, some things that happened today. So the day started with a neuropsychologist named Dr. Polly Westcott. So this is the defense's psychologist who assessed Richard Allen. Her specialty was in forensic psychology and neuropsychology. She was hired in May of 2023 to assess Allen's mental, emotional, and physical health decline while he was in Westville. Westcott was given access to his mental health treatment records, video footage from the prison, and access to his recorded calls. She told the jury that she received more information about Allen than she had in any other criminal case she's worked on before. Because, yeah, that's a lot. They don't usually get that much. She didn't receive all of the videos. She stopped receiving videos in March of 2024. So she just saw some of them. And then she met with him at Westville in August of 2023 and assessed him over a 2-day period. She also spoke with his wife, Kathy, for some additional information, and she has a 127-page report of her assessment of him. She said that she learned that Allen had had an extensive mental health record, saying he had severe anxiety through childhood before starting anxiety medication in his 20s. She said he also struggled with depression, fears of failure, and suicidal ideation through young adulthood and adulthood. And that Allen's wife played a crucial role in putting him back together. She assessed him for a personality disorder and had determined that he has dependent personality disorder, which is a type of anxious personality disorder that leaves the patient feeling helpless, unable to make decisions, and incapable of taking care of themselves. So somebody with a dependent personality disorder really relies heavily on family members to kind of keep them together. And Westcott says that Allen relied on his wife and his mother and family for support to feel like a whole person. She came to 6 conclusions in her assessment. He has a long history of mental health issues. He was not faking or exaggerating his symptoms. Allen is slower to understand, process, and respond to things. That Allen has experienced a complete mental health decrease in Westville. Allen has major depressive disorder and slipped into psychosis due to stress. Allen's brain chemistry was changed while in prison due to no contact with his wife and family. They talked about some writing samples that she had reviewed. One was a letter he wrote asking for assistance from the court in November of 2022, and a letter that he had written to Kathy before incarceration. This is really important because this is a way to assess somebody's cognitive abilities and if they have experienced like long-term brain damage from the kind of psychosis that he was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the prosecution objected to this, saying it was hearsay. The purpose was not what the letters say, but it was to evaluate the handwriting, and so it did get
Right.
in on that point. Westcott said that the November 2022 sample was organized and well thought out, but the letter structure from a later sample was completely different and fragmented. It's kind of like there's a test that's done sometimes on people who are experiencing psychosis where you ask them to draw a clock. And we all know how to draw a circle, and we all know how to put, you know, the numbers on all the way around in the right
Mm-hmm.
order, right? And someone who is experiencing a psychosis will draw a circle and a jumble of letters in the corner, and they will think, or numbers, and they will think that they have drawn a clock, and to their
Mm-hmm.
mind it looks like a clock, but to the assessor it doesn't. And this is the same kind of thing that she's just saying, you know, you can see that he's had a significant decline in his ability to write and make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a form of assessment that is done. I mean, that's a
Mm-hmm.
common thing. She
Sure.
gave him an MCI, which is a mild cognitive impairment test, it's a test for personality features and mental health disorders. Um, the test can be used to evaluate if he was faking his symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
The state objected again, said they asked for a copy of these results but not receive them. Rozzi explained that they could only be given to a mental health professional. The state did not even take time to take a deposition of Westcott.
Mm-hmm.
Right. An MCI could only be evaluated by another mental health professional, and you can't hand it to a prosecutor and then
Right.
be able to evaluate the test. And they didn't even depose Westcott.
Yeah.
So, fuck that.
So, yeah.
Uh, So, after some back and forth, Westcott said she did not believe that Allen was faking his mental illness. She said in total she administered 25 tests on Allen, which really is a lot. I don't know what she means. I don't know what she's calling a test. Which came to the conclusion that he was not very resilient in the face of stress. No shit.
Mm-hmm.
She said he was prone to decompensation and could slip into psychosis, right? Which was seen in his behavior from December 22nd, 2022 to July of 2023. She later said that Allen's brain chemistry changed due to sensory deprivation during solitary confinement, which is a known thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she also commented on Dr. Walla's reports of Allen. She said that Allen's murder confessions were in a story-like manner, but the videos of Allen at the time weren't logical.
Yeah.
So basically, you can't trust whatever he's telling you because he's telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Said his brain was like a funhouse during solitary confinement, and admitted that she was worried he had delirium. Right? He was actively psychotic. Yeah.
He wasn't
So
sleeping. He had no sense
wasn't
of day or
sleeping,
night. He's calling his
wasn't
family at three
eating.
o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So prosecutor Diener began her cross-examination by stating that Walla visited Allen every day, so he was not completely deprived of social interaction. Sorry, it's not the same thing. She then asked if Westcott received all the Department of Corrections records. She said that she believed so, given that she had records from Allen for every day that he was there. Westcott told the jury at one point Allen said Satan killed the girls, and she felt he was making statements inconsistent with reality. Right. He may have said at times he killed the girls, but those were not the only statements that he made. They're,
Mm-hmm.
cherry picking those.
Yep. And there
Um,
was a time where he also believed he was in the 1800s.
yes, yeah. Diener wanted to know if Alan's dependence in his personality disorder could be transferred from his wife to Walla. Westcott said no, that Alan was confiding in her, but he was not dependent on her. Um, she said some of the videos she received of Alan weren't time stamped, and added that she took suicide companion notes, a certain weight in her overall assessment because he had suicide companions that were watching him as well.
Mm-hmm.
She explained that people experiencing psychosis are not in the same reality as others, but can still say factual things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a question, which it is true. I mean, it's not a full immersion usually in
Right.
an alternate reality. Um, Diener commented that two of Alan's confessions weren't in Westcott's report and asked if she didn't find them significant. She said she did use those confessions and summarized them in the report, so trying to trip her up.
Mm-hmm.
Diener ended her cross, and the jury asked several questions about Alan's mental health history. If Mr. Allen has the common sense to be afraid to leave his cell, would he have the common sense to fake his symptoms? Westcott said Alan's statement about being afraid was before his psychotic episode. If he was depressed as a child, would that cause him to commit crimes as an adult? Westcott said not always, and that depends on the personality type. Would depression as a child cause them to become a sex addict? Westcott said no. Did you watch Alan's police interview in October of 2022? Westcott said no. And then there was a break. Now, I want to address something that I saw a conversation we were having over in Discord before the show
Mm-hmm.
about the testing for malingering. Psychology is a soft science, and there are a lot of different kinds of psychologists who use a lot of different kinds of tests, who use different kinds of modalities. Uh, Testing for malingering is not something that people really agree on. It's not standardized. Really, testing for malingering is much more about observation, whether it's in person or it's on video of someone's behavior, than it is really about testing for it. Although sometimes, they're using things like, is this person pretending to be psychotic? And yet that some of the time they make sense. Does that mean they're malingering? Let me just tell you a couple of things. People who are malingering don't eat their own shit. They don't. People who are malingering do not harm themselves. They do things to, malingering often is somebody faking suicidality, or they're faking hallucinations. Nobody malingers successfully for a 13-month period.
No.
That would be, you would effectively, for him, because he was being videoed all this time, he would effectively be never break character,
For
ever,
13 months.
for
Yeah.
13 months. It's insane. The idea that he was malingering is ridiculous. I don't know what her 25 tests were, if that was just 25 different observations of his behavior. Because test, what does that mean? Is it an actual psychological test given? Is it I'm observing their behavior and testing it against what I know to be malingering? So I know that, there have been a lot of opinions about if she did unethical things or not. That is not my impression of this at all.
Yeah.
She is trying to counter that idea that Wallace said that he was malingering, which is just stupid. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
anybody, you don't have to be a psychologist to be able to tell that if someone is eating their own shit
Mm-hmm.
and screaming and yelling and saying Satan killed the girls and talking about being in the 1800s. At one point, he said he thought he was dead. That's a very common thing that people who are psychotic say. Like, he gave tons of indications that he was not malingering.
Right.
So, I know not everybody agreed with this woman. Okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Did she do anything unethical? I don't think that she did. And when you're comparing her report to Walla's report,
Right.
you can't. trust anything that Walla did because she had a personal stake
Hmm.
in her relationship with Richard Allen that didn't have
Yeah.
anything to do with her job.
Yeah.
We can't trust
Her
anything that she said. Nothing.
no. Her bias completely outweighs whatever she says.
Totally. And also, it's pretty clear that she was feeding him information that he was then
Hmm.
parroting back.
Yeah.
Everything that she said, she should never have been allowed to
Hmm.
testify. She should never have been used as a prosecution witness. It's insane.
Hmm.
So
Very wrong. Yeah.
that's my 2 cents on that. Let me get to the last of what we have here for today. So then the jury, unfortunately, after a break, had to watch more videos. Nobody wanted to have to do that. So Max Baker is back. They turn the screens so that people can't watch again. And they watched videos of the footage of in his cell. Video 1 was from April 12th, 2023, and included clips from a 5-hour time period. Video 2 included clips taken from May 25th, 2023 over a 12-hour time period. Russell noted that video 1 was an hour and 20 minutes long, and that multiple jurors took notes while they were watching. An alternative juror, who Russell said has a high school aged daughter, raised her eyebrows throughout. State prosecutors and the defense gathered around the TV to watch. Richard Allen did not watch the footage. They didn't make Allen watch this footage last week or this week.
Hmm.
Video 2 was 26 minutes long. Many jurors glanced at Allen while they were watching that. Rozzi questioned Max Baker after that video ended. He said he looked through 18 to 20 hours of footage between April and July of 2023. Nick McClellan spoke up asking if it was better for Allen to be in his cell alone. Rozzi objected, stating Baker couldn't decide that, right? Just like that administrator can't make assessments like
Hmm.
that. He was just the guy that pieced the video together.
Hmm.
McClellan then asked why Baker chose the camcorder videos shown on Saturday. Few of the camcorder videos included Allen being tased, showering, eating feces, receiving an x-ray, and interacting with his nurse. Baker said he picked the videos he did because they showed Rick's life in prison. McClellan commented that Baker showed what he viewed as his worst condition in Westville, and that Baker showed the
Yeah.
jury, yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be the whole point? And that Baker showed the jury the video to try to show that Richard Allen is the victim. I mean, if the shoe fits. There was a lot of back and forth about that, but a lot of objections. Rozzi jumped back in and said, "You picked what you picked to show them the truth." And Baker said, "Yes." Uh,
There was a comment in there from McClelland that the girls are the victims and they need to quit making Richard Allen look like he was the victim.
they can all be victims. That's kind of the whole
Right?
point here,
Yeah.
is that Richard Allen was certainly a victim of that situation.
Well, and these videos were just only played in court to just try and get sympathy from the jury.
I think it was to try to show the jury
The
the
truth.
the truth
Yeah.
of what's been done to him. So then the defense calls Brad Weber.
Hmm.
A reporter in the courtroom noticed that he seemed extremely disheveled. Baldwin asks him why he was upset when they talked before on cross. Weber says, "I was upset because you were trying to tell me what I did when I got off work." So Baldwin handed him a transcript from an FBI interview that was done in February of 2017. Weber tells the jury he went on a 3-day trip to Arizona and got back the Sunday before the girls died. Baldwin asks him about his ATM machine business. Weber says he takes money off them through surcharges. He doesn't know how many he had in 2017. He says he had 30 at one point and has 15 now. Weber tells the jury he attended to his ATM machines daily, says he checks how much money they have and gets money from the bank. He says he doesn't know what bank he used in 2017. He thinks it was a Regions Bank. Weber says his ATMs are at gas stations, taverns, restaurants, etc. He said he used a black Subaru to drive to service his ATMs. He says he uses Regions Bank now, but not always the same branch. He says on the day of the murder, he went straight home from his other job at the Subaru plant. Weber tells the jury that nobody from law enforcement asked him to go to a police station this past August, that they asked him to go to a different location. He says it could have been Steve Mullins that called. He says, only time I used my van was when I was pulling a trailer. So he's the van guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some questions about why did he not service his ATMs on the day of the murders? On February 13th, he says he took a nap when he got home after work, got up around 5 p.m., and someone knocked on the door. Baldwin asked him, do trespassers come onto your property? He says yes. He says he did not hear any screaming on that day. He says he had a home in Lafayette in 2017 and owns a trailer. Weber tells the jury he gave law enforcement permission to go inside his house, but it was not on February 13th. He says his van was in the grass and the Subaru was in the driveway. Baldwin hands him a photo of his garage from February 19th, 2017. Prosecution objects to the photo. Gull admits the photo. Then there's a sidebar. Guess we don't get to see the photo. McClellan cross-examines Weber. Weber says law enforcement stopped him on his way home a few times, probably February 17th. He says someone looked through his property on February 13th. He confirms he talked to law enforcement on February 17th. He said he went straight home from work on February 13th. The timeline's fucked up here. Because he says he talked to law enforcement on that they looked through his property on the 13th. So when they were looking for the girls, I guess. So then the jury has several questions for him. Do you know if the ATMs would have photo or video of servicing? He says not the actual ATMs, but some of the locations. How far in advance would you have to order cash for ATMs? He says getting cash isn't a problem, but a week in advance. What is the process to clock out of work? Weber says it's a turnstile. What driveway do you use at home? Weber says driveway under the Monenhigh Bridge. Do you drive under the bridge? Would you have taken that route on February 13th? He says yes. Do you typically go home before servicing your ATMs? Weber says no. See, his schedule was screwed up that day. He didn't do what he normally does.
Well, there's also some question about was he driving the van or wasn't he?
Right.
Or was he driving the black Subaru?
Right.
Because by what he says, he would have been driving the Subaru.
Right. But it's been pretty well established that he was actually driving the van. The defense says they have no more questions for today. They said they had planned to have former state trooper Kevin Murphy testify, that he would have said the incident command always said there were more than one person involved in the investigation, right? And the prosecution objected to that testimony. Right. We know leading up to Richard Allen, this was always considered to be a crime committed by two people, at least. After the jury left the courtroom, Baldwin says he has an offer of proof for third-party suspects. He says, if Allen had asked police if my spit was on one of the girls, Judge Gold tells the defense, we've had this discussion 1,000 times. You have no evidence to tie these people to the crime. Baldwin says he has an offer of proof for third-party suspects. He says, if Allen had asked police if my spit was on the girls, he says it. Okay, never mind. Baldwin says, I believe there is more than a nexus. So again, trying to bring in
Hmm.
other people who potentially
Right.
could have committed the crime. She won't let him in.
Yeah, the guy who said, "If you find my spit on the girls, I can explain that."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what the hell does that mean? I mean,
Hmm.
so after lunch, the defense calls Shelby Hicks. She's a retired realtor in the area. She says on February 13th, she took her car in for repair and went for a hike with her boyfriend. She says they got to the trails around 2:30 p.m. and parked in connector lot. Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin is trying to get her to say Mears entrance. Ah, okay. And I don't know if connector lot and Mears entrance are the same thing. Baldwin asks her if there was anyone parked there other than her. She says there were other cars. Hicks says they walked toward the highway for 5 minutes, then went toward the high bridge. She tells the jury it takes 10 to 15 minutes to get to the bridge. She said she saw an older gentleman, two girls from school, and a few other kids. Hicks says she saw an older gentleman with a camera. Remember, we heard
Hmm.
about that guy. And says Cheyenne and Shelby Duncan from school were two people she saw and knew. She tells the jury she was there first on the bridge's platform. She says she said hi to the friends from high school. Hicks tells the jury she was on the platform for 15 to 20 minutes and then went back to the car with her boyfriend. And she says she does not remember if other cars were there when she left. She says the next day her boyfriend Daniel wanted to tell law enforcement what they had seen. She says they went to the police but were asked to come back at another time, and they went back that evening. She tells the jury she didn't hear anything on the bridge. She says she met with law enforcement twice, first on February 14th and then again in March of 2017. She says the police never took her phone or extracted her data. At 2:23 p.m., prosecution attorney Stacey Diener does her cross examination. Hicks says her cellular provider in 2017 was Sprint. She tells the jury she never walked across the high bridge. She says on that day she left the platform before her friends returned. So then the jury has some questions for her. Was the man with the camera old? Hicks says yes. Did you arrive at the bridge at 2:55? Hicks says could have been. Remember, the guy with the camera said he saw a couple.
Hmm.
So probably her and her boyfriend. Um, at 2:29 p.m., the defense calls Steve Mullen. Uh, they show Mullen a list of Ford Focus SEs in white, registered in Cass, Carroll, and Tippecanoe counties between 2011 and 2017. Baldwin says he only focused on cars that were similar to Allen's. Prosecutor McClellan objects to the exhibit, saying it was not certified. Baldwin asks how many people own similar hatchback models in Carroll County or surrounding areas in 2017. Mullen says he does not know. Uh, Baldwin says Mullen created a log of missing interviews. He says on March 18th that Mullins did not say that at the hearings in March. Baldwin raises his voice and then apologizes to the judge. So he had some kind of documentation of the missing evidence, the missing
Hmm.
interviews. Mullins looks at the transcript from the March hearing. He admits that at the time there was no log. He tells the jury that there is a log in the filing cabinets from early on and says he has gone through the cabinet and found it since he testified in March. So his testimony was not consistent.
Hmm.
Baldwin then asks about Libby's phone. Prosecution asks for a sidebar. Uh, Baldwin says Dr. Wallow was a fan of Delphi sites and asked if it would be important to find out if a van was discussed on social media. Mullins says he did not look. Baldwin says there were many mentions of a van on social media. He says Mullins doesn't know what Wallace said when she was taking care of Alan. See, so many questions about
Hmm.
what she fed him.
Yeah.
Jury question of Mullen. Why would anyone discuss a van prior to Alan's confession? Mullen says that's why we looked into this. That was the first we heard of it. Baldwin asks Mullen if they had ever heard of a white van. 30 minutes outside of Delphi with a suspicious thin man asking kids if they wanted candy. Nolan says he does not recall. So there's another alternative to the crime.
Mm-hmm. That, of course, Mullen has no idea about.
Right? Why would he know? So then they come back from lunch. And they call Jamie Jones. This is Richard Allen's half-sister.
Mm-hmm.
She tells the jury that Allen is 5 years older than her, and they lived together all through their childhood. She says Allen got married right after getting back from being in the military. Jones tells the jury that Allen did not ever molest her or touch her inappropriately. There'd been rumors about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, he had said that.
Right. That's right. He had said that in his insanity.
In his confessions. Yeah.
Yeah. She says that is not true. She asks, do you love your brother? She says yes. Would you lie for him? She says no. And that's concludes direct. Prosecutor Luttrell on cross, he says, does the name Chris ring a bell? Our defense objects as they were discussing neighborhood kids while Allen and Jones were growing up. The objection is sustained. I don't know what that has to do with anything. The defense then called Brittany Zapanta, who is Richard Allen's daughter. Allen is nodding his head as she takes the stand. Zapanta tells the jury she moved out in 2015 for a job. She says she works in urgent care. She attended Ball State and then went to Indianapolis. Auger asks, did your father molest you? She says no. Would you lie for him? She says no. So, again, refuting the things that he said when he was out of his head. Mm-hmm. Cross-examination. Did you and your father go on the trail a lot? Did you and your father go on the Monon High Bridge? There's an objection to these questions. First objection was sustained. Second was overruled. She said she went to the bridge with her dad and only crossed it once or twice. Luttrell asks Zapanta if Allen changed his appearance after she left for Ball State. She says no. He asks her another question about Allen's height and weight. There's an objection on that. He shows Zapanta photos of Allen. Auger asks to approach the bench because they've been trying to get photos in of him.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And after the sidebar, Luttrell shows her the photos and asks if certain photos look like her dad in February 2017. She says yes, but the gallery did not see the photos, but I think the jury did. Auger objects and says the photos are outside the scope of questioning, and there's another sidebar, and then she sustains the objections. They want to be able to compare what he looked like to Bridge Guy or whatever.
Well, they want to say that he tried to change his appearance to look less like Bridge Guy by refusing to eat, that he was starving himself on purpose so that he would look differently to the jury.
Yes. So
that's exactly what that brain was thinking about, I'm sure.
Right. Well, especially because that whole thing with his fishing license
mm-hmm.
and how his height and weight were a little different from one to the next. So stupid. Like anyone who's using your fishing license as a description. The jury asks questions to Zapanta. She tells the jury she visited the bridge in her teens and crossed the high bridge with her dad and only crossed it 1 or 2 times total. And Allen is smiling as she leaves.
She also was asked if she loves her dad, and she said yes, of course. And some reporters on Twitter today were saying that she said no, and then had to recant that. She did say she loves her dad. Yeah.
She did. And she also confirmed that he did not molest her. And that was the end of today.
A couple of points of interest. I know we've been going for a really long time, and I apologize, but here we are. This was an order that was issued by Judge Gohl. On 7/19/2023. This court, having had this matter under advisement following a hearing and having considered the evidence and the arguments of counsel, now finds as follows. Defendant is currently incarcerated at the Westville Correctional Facility under a safekeeping order issued November 3rd, 2022. The court order states that the court finds that the defendant is an inmate awaiting trial and is in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death, or represents a substantial threat to the safety of others. The evidence presented at the hearings of the defendant's motion to reconsider did not support many of the allegations advanced by defendant counsel. In fact, the evidence presented demonstrated that the defendant is treated more favorably than other inmates housed at the Westville Correctional Facility. In light of the evidence presented, the court has reconsidered the original safekeeping order and finds it reasonable and necessary to ensure the defendant's safety and to prevent serious bodily injury to himself. The Department of Correction has provided and will continue to provide the defendant with necessarily medical services, including any mental health services. If the Department of Correction believes a facility other than Westville is more appropriate or more convenient for counsel, the court is confident that the Department of Corrections will move the defendant accordingly. So she was presented with some of the evidence of what Richard Allen was going through and found that it wasn't that bad. He's being treated better than other inmates there. And then when she disqualified Rosie and Baldwin, she fell back on this order, claiming that they lied to her about how bad the conditions at Westville were.
Are you fucking kidding me, Go? Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Another point that came up today that I thought was interesting and worth repeating. This is from Weineke Law Offices. This is a tweet that they made today. Weineke is the law office that represented Rosie and Baldwin when they went in front of the Supreme Court to get them reinstated on this case.
Right.
She said, "Here's why you cannot separate confessions by date of active psychosis to determine whether they are true or false. There is a type of false confession known as coerced internalized false confession. This is where the person comes to believe that he actually committed the crime even though he did not. This is the problem here. Because of the conditions under which Rick was confined, if his earlier confessions were false, nothing he says later is trustworthy either. His psychosis may have led him to believe that he actually committed the crime. Did Rick's conditions get better at Wabash Valley? In one respect, he no longer had Odinist guards supervising him, as far as we know. Otherwise, the conditions were the same. I have seen the inside of Wabash Valley's segregation unit. It is exactly like Westville's."
Jesus.
So basically saying that you really can't trust any confessions considering that they started while he was in active psychosis, even if he's not
Right.
now. Also because he may have some brain injuries from all of the banging his head against the walls that he did.
And from all the psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And in his condition, he may have begun to believe that he had done something. Why else would they be treating him so horrifically?
Yep. And then lastly, this is a tweet from Luke Nicholas, also from Twitter, saying, and this is something that came up, I think, on maybe Friday, but we actually weren't privy. It didn't come up in our notes, so I wanted to make sure that we shared it. That there was a trail cam video. This is the first we have heard of there being a trail cam video.
Yeah.
Why didn't the prosecution share that there was a trail cam video?
Right? Why?
Someone was seen on a trail cam after midnight, after Abby and Libby went missing, and before they were found, yards from their bodies. We hear this from the first time today. Rick Allen was at home with his wife.
What the hell? What is on that trail cam?
Not much. It sounds like it was kind of shadowy, and we don't know what was on the trail cam. But what we do know is there was a trail cam, and the prosecution did not bring that up.
Of course not. They're not going to show anything that doesn't serve their narrative.
Yep.
But could that be exculpatory evidence?
Yeah. Well, that's why the defense is bringing it up.
Right.
so that's where we are. So I know this has been
Jesus.
incredibly long, and I apologize for that, but I think all of these details are really, really important. So here
They
we
are.
are. So we'll
I'm
be back
glad that the
tomorrow.
jury seems to be so aware.
They're asking really good questions.
They
Yeah,
are.
they are. I also think it's really important that, yeah, at one point the attorney said that Rick Allen had two black eyes. Mm-hmm. Yep. But, yeah, I think I have no idea how much longer the defense has, what else they have to bring. But I think it's encouraging that there is a mental health expert on the jury. They have got to be absolutely appalled at what they're seeing and hearing here.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
And a school counselor, too.
Yes, a school counselor as well. Yep.
Both would be horrified by this
Yeah.
stuff.
They should be. They should be. Yeah. So that's what we've got. We will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Mountain for more true crime. We will continue to update
Mhm.
this case every day, if not every other day, but we'll work every day in, of course,
Mhm.
with everything that we're learning and learning along with you guys. So thank you so much for being here. Take good care of yourselves. We'll see you tomorrow at 3. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad.
Bye, everybody.